Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the podcast. This is such a great conversation today. But first, I just have to tell you about my fabulous, amazing weekend. It was the absolute picture of everything I love when I am at home. You know, the other fabulous pictures of what I love happen in France, but if I am in Massachusetts, my ideal weekend looks exactly like what just occurred. So we had our supper club on Friday night. It was amazing, and our table was full. And then our guest speaker, the beautiful, fabulous, wonderful Elizabeth Marth-Tarara, spent the weekend here as a farm stay guest. I had the beautiful opportunity to introduce her to my gorgeous neighbor, and we had dinner together on Saturday night. And then Sunday, I had a foraged wreath and cookie decorating workshop with Julia of Sunshine Day Bakery and Karen Ann from Persephone Flowers, and beautiful, amazing women that found their way to the barn and the property and the house, and it was absolutely magical. And then Amelia came home and we had a beautiful evening together, and I went to bed on time so I could wake up refreshed for my morning practice. And oh my gosh, it's just an absolute delight to be me right now. And I'm so excited to share that with you, to remind you that you have all the power and the opportunity to create the life that you desire. Everything that I'm doing right now used to be the dream. And the only reason that it is my reality is because I held space for that dream, and I gave that dream water and sunshine and attention, and I took courageous, inspired action in the direction of where I want to go and the woman I want to be. And all of those things mixed together, stirred lovingly, have created the beautiful experiences that I'm having. And the ripple effects of those experiences are in turn having impact on other women's lives, whether they're collaborators, whether they're workshop or dinner participants, whether they're farm stay guests, whether they're listening to the podcast and hearing these words right now. If this is making your heart swell, if this is making you say yes really loud on the inside or even out loud, oh my gosh, welcome. You belong here. You have found a place where dreams are encouraged and inspiration and impact follow. And it is a beautiful, beautiful place. And you are safe here, and you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, and you are known. So thank you. Thank you for holding this space for me, and thank you for receiving the space that I'm holding for you. Okay. Also, I wanted to let you know before we get into today's beautiful conversation is that if you are local and within driving distance of Bolton, Massachusetts, and you are looking for an opportunity just to do something fun and maybe get a little bit dirty, but to feel super accomplished at the end of your day and then also learn a new skill, I have two opportunities for you or your children that are in need of community service points. We are doing a fall cleanup, cocktails, and calligraphy fun day extravaganza. I don't know what other word that starts with a C that I could call that celebration. We'll be doing on Saturday and Sunday, November 11th and 12th. We will be cleaning up the peony and dahlia fields, preparing them for their long winter's nap. And then after we're done with that, we will have a cocktail and calligraphy workshop. So I will show you what could become your signature cocktail for your holiday gatherings, as well as some hand lettering techniques so that you can create stunningly gorgeous place cards that are just going to put your Thanksgiving table over the top. So I would love to have you join me. If you stay for or start with the workday, then that workshop is free for you as my gift and utter appreciation. If you are not interested in getting dirty, but you're all about cocktails and calligraphy, then there is a link that you can register for just that portion. And no shade if you don't want to get dirty, but you do want to learn a new skill. And tons of gratitude if you are available to help me in this lovely labor of love. All right, now on to our guest. The most lovely human, Stacey Dominici, is with us today. And Stacey is the owner of Stacey Lynn Boutique Photography, a high school senior portrait photography business in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So aside from being a photographer, Stacey is a wife, a fur baby mom, and crazy aunt who believes that life is an adventure meant to be filled with experiences. The fastest way to her heart is through food, bonus points for strong coffee and buffalo chicken dip, although not together. She lives life on her own terms, walks her own path, and is fiercely loyal and extremely protective of the people she loves. Stacey's superpower is creating transformational portrait experiences for teens that instill confidence, guide them to step into their power, and encourage them to show up authentically and offer their gifts to the world. She also runs a 16-month creator team experience for high school juniors and seniors that educates them on being content creators through collaborations with local and online brands, styled photo shoots, and unique experiences. The program also includes community outreach opportunities, educational workshops, mentoring, and peer connection. How fun is she? She has figured out how to follow her dreams and also be open to the next iteration of those, even if she discovers it in conversation with a friend. So I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation, to hear what's on Stacey's heart, and to find a part of your own story in hers. Sweet Stacey, I am so excited to spend this time with you and have this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you.
Hooray, hooray. So, sweet Stacey, we're going to start the way that I begin the majority of these conversations when I remember to ask the question, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
So, well, first of all, it's taken me a very long time to say yes to myself. So I feel like it's never too late to start.
Say more about that.
Well, so I pretty much was the good girl growing up and wanted to do all the things that everyone wanted me to do. Graduate high school, get the straight A's, graduate high school, go to college, get a good job that pays good money with good benefits. And so I did those things. And it took me until, well, I guess I realized about 10 years prior to turning 40 that I just wasn't happy following that path, that it took me 10 years to get up the courage to actually do something about it.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I turned 40, I kind of had this revelation, like, I'm not going to be sitting here in another 40 years, God willing, and regret that I didn't do the things in my life that I wanted to do the way I wanted to do them. So I decided probably about a week into January of 2012 that, like, I was done. I was out of here. I was not doing the corporate job anymore. And I decided I wanted to start my own business, which I kind of always wanted to do. But again, the fear was getting to me. That was winning out. So when I turned 40, I put in my resignation at my job, gave my 2 weeks, and really had no backup plan. Like, I didn't do like the side hustle for a while and the job. I was just like, nope, I'm done with this. I'm doing the business now. And I did it. And it was super scary. And like the night before I quit, I was physically ill, and but I pushed through and I did it. And I'm so glad that I did. So that to me was like the first time I really said yes to myself.
Wow, that's amazing. And I want to chat about what has happened since, but I find it really fascinating how much we tolerate and how much we think that that is our only option. I was in a conversation with a beautiful woman yesterday, and she was sharing how awful her job is, how awful she is treated by this woman that is her boss, and how she continues to go there every day and be subjected to this unacceptable behavior. And even her children, her husband is saying, you have to quit this job. This is awful. And she's working, far more hours than she's being paid to work. And she's having health, like all of these things. And I asked her, like, why? Why are you that? Why? What are you doing? Why are you there? It's, it's not her dream job. It is not even, I think I don't want to discount, we need jobs. Like, I totally get that. Right. And we don't have to put ourselves in these situations that are so opposed to our life, right, that we're even denying the people that know and love us, that are giving us permission to leave. It's almost as if she wants to win it. Like, she doesn't want to be the person that gives up. Like, she wants to be, she's the good girl, which I used to be a good girl too. Like, I'm recovering good girl. And you just feel like this, I took this job, so I have to keep it till I get fired. I don't know. Like, why do you think we do that? I think the reason makes a lot of sense when it's in our own head. But I think what happened for this woman yesterday is, as she was telling me all the reasons why she would stay, they sounded really lame once they left her body and were floating in between us. And I thought, oh my gosh, we can find you another job. Like, this amount of money is not, like, if you're the sole breadwinner and you're bringing home $500,000 a year, and maybe it's harder, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's two things. I think a lot of it is we get so in our routine. So it's like, plug and play or like Groundhog Day, like just get up and go through the motions, to get the paycheck, to pay the bills, to take the vacations, to care for our families, all of those things. But I also think it's fear of the unknown, because what if you quit that job and you get into another job and it's worse? And so sometimes, the devil is better than the devil you don't know. So
But
so
what
I
if
think
you get another job and it's better?
well, and true. And if a job is that bad, of course, I mean, I stayed where I was at, miserable for 10 years. And at the time I was single. So I felt like I had no support, no backup plan. So that's kind of why I stayed. I was like, well, I need the benefits. I need the stable job. Could I have gone to another company? Absolutely. Did I? No, honestly, it never even occurred to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why.
Right. I think that, as I said, recovering good girl, and I myself am transitioning into this belief, this realization that if I'm in a situation that is uncomfortable, I can reflect and say, okay, like what opportunity for growth is here? Of course, there's resistance to our next level of development and growth and evolution. And then there is just misalignment of I don't belong in this room, at this job, in this marriage, in this friendship, in whatever, like on this train, like, I don't know, like this is not the house I'm supposed to buy. This is not the job I'm supposed to have. There's a realization that I think sometimes we don't think we can trust.
Mm-hmm.
When what I am learning is that those are signs that this thing, it needs to complete because there is something better for me waiting. And It is always a double blessing. So clearly, back to this woman's situation, her boss is mean and awful and terrible to her. So clearly, she needs a different type of person in that job that is going to meet whatever realistic or unrealistic expectations she has. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be in service to both of these women to not work together anymore. But giving yourself the time and space to actually entertain and absorb that way of thinking goes against a lot of conditioning.
Yeah. And that's really interesting that, like you said, it's a double blessing. And I had never thought about it like that. You almost, on some level, you think, oh, it's me. I'm failing. If I changed my mindset, this job would be better. If I did this, my job would be better. But it's not all one-sided. There are two sides, and there's two things that are not meshing. And like you said, like if she left, then maybe that manager would get another person that fits better, or maybe that manager would realize, oh, hey, I have some work to do on myself or something.
Right.
But that's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I find that even in the decision to end my marriage, like, of course, that was in service to me, and it was absolutely in service to my ex-husband. He might not have realized that at the time, and I'm not anticipating a thank you note, but it was the best decision I could make for me. And 100%, it was the best decision I could have made for him also. Yeah. He's so happy now because he's not here. And I'm so happy now because he's not here. So it's, you just, sometimes you're the one that has the courageous conversation, the first move, but trusting that this dis-ease in your body is trustworthy, that comes from the source of infinite intelligence. I believe that's God. Everyone can call that whatever makes them feel good and safe. But I believe that God has designed me and designed what purpose I'm here for. And when I am not in alignment with that purpose, it shows up in my body. And in the Course in Miracles, I'm on my second year through it. So I'm looking at a sticky note because I just wrote this down, that the presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. So if something feels scary, like, oh, if I quit this job, what am I going to do? Well, you're going to be able to sleep. You're going to be able to eat and not be sick and not be stressed. And that feeling good in your body is what brings you new opportunities and what makes you aware of other opportunities.
Yeah. And I always say that growth begins at the end of your comfort zone. And I am a firm believer in, like you said, if something is scary to you, that is what you need to do. And I feel like a lot of times we ignore that inner voice because it is typically not the easy path. It's not the easy solution. It's, leave the job, end your marriage, travel here, do these things. And those are scary a lot of times. But I found that when you have the courage to follow that voice, that things turn out so much better on the other side.
Right. Because it's where you're supposed to be.
Right.
If your heart is desiring a better job or a trip to Paris or to start your own company or whatever, that's because that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
We can trust that. And I think that's really the bigger conversation, is trusting ourselves.
Right. For sure.
So it's 2012. You've decided you're going to leave your corporate job and start your own business. What happens next?
Well, it took a little while. I kind of drug my feet. I mean, I was doing things towards the business, but I felt safer doing some online college courses for a few years to get the skills that I wanted to start my photography business. And then in 2014, I actually did officially form the business, get the website up, all of those things. And I mean, I've had the business for 9 years, so I'm super happy about that. I feel like until probably the last 2 years, I just traded bosses. Like, the business was my boss. The business was running me. I was not running the business. I'm working on that and making leaps and bounds with that kind of every day. I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where I'm ready to do the things that I need to do to be the CEO of my business and not the employee.
Oh, that's really interesting. Can you share what are some ways where you were acting like an employee instead of a CEO? And then what helped you make that shift?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, basically, I felt like I had to be chained to my desk 24/7, 7 days a week. I was not giving myself a break at all. And I kept telling myself, when the business is successful, when it's where I want it, when I make X amount of dollars, when I have X amount of clients, that's when I'll give myself a break. When the to-do list is finished, I'll give myself a break. Well, after 9 years of being in that cycle, it's never done. Like, the to-do list is never finished. Once you hit one goal, there's a new goal that slips in there that you want. So it felt like I was always chasing a train, putting out fires. I was letting my self-care just go by the wayside. I was not present in my marriage. I was not present for, the rest of my family, my sister, my parents. I was trying very hard to do all of those things. But when I was always feeling guilty. When I was working the business, I felt guilty because I was letting my personal relationships suffer. I was letting my health suffer. And then when I was spending time with family or taking care of myself, I felt guilty because the business was suffering. Like, if I'm not doing the things in the business, it's not growing, it's not going anywhere. So I played that for years and years. Just telling myself the stories of someday. So probably about 2 years ago, I started realizing those things. And probably in the last year, I started doing something about those things.
Ooh, that's an interesting shift.
Yeah.
I heard one of my mentors say, talking about something for 2 years does not mean you've been working on something for 2 years.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you come to that realization? Are you reading books? Were you in being coached? Like how are you navigating this shift in consciousness really without, saying, I'm done with this business. It's not working for me. I'm going to go get a job or whatever.
Yeah. I've had the thoughts that I'm done with the business, but never I'm going to go get a job. I told my husband, I said, I'm never going to work for someone else. If for some reason this isn't the business, I will do another one. Right. So I'm very confident in that. But it really started to shift when I got a business coach.
Okay.
And again, I had played around with a couple coaches in the past, never found the right fit. Finally found someone that I just clicked with. And I've been with her for a few years now. And she started kind of mirroring in our conversations the things that my brain and my intuition was telling me, but that I was pushing down. So it started to be reinforced. And then very recently, within the last 6 months, I ended up getting a spiritual coach to help me with my business coach helps with mindset, but I felt like I needed to go deeper than that because I felt like my issues around where I was in the business were mindset issues. So I started working with the spiritual coach. So between her and my business coach, I started to kind of connect all of the pieces of the puzzle and kind of realize the things that maybe I always kind of knew, but was now ready. I guess I needed that outside confirmation, maybe,
Sure.
To actually take action on them.
Oh, that's so great. I am a super fan of coaching and helping, and I have multiple coaches as well. And it really is amazing that someone else can see really clearly what we have blind spots about. Yeah. And it's really helpful. I know I said this in a conversation previously on the podcast, but sometimes we think, well, if this person really knew, then they would understand why I won't be successful, or I can't get past this block, or whatever it is, when in actuality, they are seeing more clearly than we are. It's like trying to read the label from inside the bottle, as Nicole says, that, you can't see, you think you have the best view of what's going on, but we don't. And that's why having mentors and having community and being in conversations with other entrepreneurs is really important, because our brains work differently than people that really thrive in a corporate job atmosphere.
Right. And it took me years to figure that out. In the early stages of my business, I was bouncing everything off of my parents and my husband and my sister. And they thought I was crazy, like with what I wanted to charge, what I wanted to offer. The fact that I was even doing a business, they just kept saying, well, at first they just kept saying, this is a hobby, this is a phase, it'll pass. And then there was a lot of, why don't you go get a real job? And that's quieted now. That used to really make me mad. It's quieted now. And I know that they're proud of me because they've seen like the stick-to-itiveness that I've had. but nobody really understands it like another entrepreneur does. And
Right.
now that I would go out to dinner with friends and everybody would ask, how's the business? And I would start talking about it and you could see like their eyes glaze over. So I've learned now just to say it's doing great. And then we move on to another topic. Not that they're not interested. They just don't get it.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
when you're getting married and, you know, like you're so excited about all the details and people are like, oh my gosh, enough with your wedding already. Or like, I could talk about your wedding all day long. It's my
Right.
favorite conversation. Tell me everything. So
Yeah.
finding your people. And, you know, it's lovely that there are such obvious markers. If you are talking about your business or about something that you want to do, and the people you're talking to say, that's crazy, you're crazy, why don't you do this thing that feels like the opposite of what's right for you every day? Those are not your people for this conversation.
Right.
So of course they're like, it's still your mom, still your sister, still your husband, you know, but you need to be in conversation and be supported by people that are not telling you that you're crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and they mean well, and, you know,
They
they
do.
want to help. And of course they love me and I know all of those things, but it was just such a different path that I took versus anyone else in my family, any relatives, anything. I'm the first business owner. So it was uncharted territory, not only for me, but for them. So for a while, they were really trying to wrap their heads around it. Now I think they get it. I mean, my dad, he tells everyone that he knows that I'm a photographer. Do you need a photographer? And I love that. But it took some time for them to be proud of saying that versus like, my daughter quit her big corporate job, making good money, and like she's taking photos. Like their perspective on it has changed, and I'm really happy for that. I'm really proud of that because I'm the one that kind of changed their thinking on it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly had the opportunity to hear some comments like that based on my choices. And, you know, like I'm going to go be my crazy, flighty, frivolous self in France for the month. You guys knock yourself out at your job that you hate. Doesn't make any sense. Why would I do something every single day that I hate and then expect myself to be a good mom and expect myself to be a good daughter and friend and sister and wife and all the other things that I was trying to be? That it doesn't make sense. But I know so many people that are bending themselves into a pretzel to try to fit into a form that it doesn't fit.
Right. Yeah. And the definition of success, I think, to me has changed from when I quit my corporate job to start my business to now. Like, yes, I still want to be successful with a certain revenue, certain number of clients, things like that. But I'm already successful because I'm doing something that lights me up every single day. I get to wake up and follow my dreams and work for my goals and not for a boss that I haven't even met, like a CEO of a company that's sitting in a corner office working for his dreams and goals. So,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, every day I get up, I'm successful because I am saying yes to myself.
That's right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. So over the years, how has your business morphed? Like, how are you doing right now what you did in the beginning, or is it continuing to be refined, and is it changing? What's happening now?
Yeah, so it's definitely continuing to be refined. It looks very different than it was when I started. When I started, I was photographing anything and everything. So I was considered a generalist, basically. Like anybody that would throw money at me, any amount of money, it didn't matter if it was $5 to photograph absolutely anything. I was like, yes, I'll do it. Over the years, it took me probably about 4 years into my business to kind of figure out what types of photography I loved and what I wanted to photograph.
Sure.
So I narrowed it down to high school seniors and weddings. And those were my two.
Oh,
My
good.
my absolute number one is high school seniors. Um, I kept weddings for a long time because I thought that was where the money came from.
Mm,
And I wanted to photograph weddings essentially to fund the things that I wanted to do with my high school seniors.
sure.
I rebranded about 3 years ago, right? Right during COVID, I was starting to rebrand. Um, and now I'm to the point where I'm starting to seriously consider getting rid of weddings completely. Haven't gotten the guts to take it off my website yet, but that's just not lighting me up anymore. My
Mhm.
seniors are lighting me up. I want to work with more teens. I want to add tweens into the mix. I just love working with that age group. And I think kind of my path became the guiding principle behind why I love working with teens. The fact that it took me until I was 40 to say yes to myself.
Mhm.
I want to instill that message in the teens now so that they can say yes to themselves now when they have the whole world open to them, literally. I want them to feel empowered and follow their path and do things that light them up. And I wish I had learned that when I was that age. So if I can instill that in them, that's what I want. And I think that's why I love working with that age group, because they have so many possibilities in front of them. And this is kind of their fork in the road. Like, which way are you going to go? And if that's going and getting a corporate job, absolutely do that. I want them to do things for the right reasons.
Sure. Now, how as a senior portrait photographer are you having the opportunity, and how are you taking the opportunity to have these types of conversations? Because I wouldn't necessarily think in hiring someone to take my child's senior pictures that I was going to get this amazing guidance counselor on the other side of the camera. So how are you able to incorporate that into what you're doing?
Sure. So first and foremost, I think it all starts with instilling confidence. I think until you have the confidence in yourself and trust yourself, you're going to push down any inner voice that's saying, hey, do this different. So I really try to give my seniors an entire experience when they come to me. So when they sign on, when they book me to do their senior photos, I send them a pretty lengthy questionnaire, which has a lot of personality questions so that I can really kind of get to know them and get to know what makes them tick. And then, I ask even questions like, what are your favorite features about you? What are your least favorite? How do you get along with your parents? So I start to figure out areas where maybe they're feeling a little self-conscious and maybe don't have the confidence. And then throughout my time with them, kind of work on those areas a little bit. They don't know that I'm doing that. I'm
Right.
just trying to build them up when we're doing posing. I can kind of, if they say a certain feature makes them self-conscious, they don't like their nose or whatever, I can pose them so that they look like their best. I know the angles. And so when they see these photos, I want them to be just like, hey, that's me. I look amazing. Because I mean, these kids, none of them that I get have ever modeled. They're very unlikely to have had professional photos done, even as a family.
Mhm.
So I always tell them, it's your job to show up and have fun. It's my job to make you look like the best version of you. And then I also want them to feel like the best version of themselves.
Oh, that
So,
is so beautiful. I love how I remember several years ago in a business course that I took with Kathy Heller, which is where I met Rachel,
oh,
our mutual friend. And she said, sell them what they want. So in this case, a senior picture, and give them what they need.
mhm.
And that is this: I see you.
Yeah,
I hear you. I desire to know you and encourage you. That's so beautiful. I love that you're doing that.
yeah. And I really do try to to make it customizable for each senior. So I tell everybody when they come to me, I don't do cookie cutter. You're going to get a session that's unique to you, even if we use the same location that I've used before, because there are several locations that are very popular. I make a very conscious effort to photograph it very differently for each senior. We incorporate their loves into it, whatever they're into. I really try to make it all about them. I tell their parents it's a whole day for them. This is a whole experience for them. It's not just show up, I meet you that day, I take your photos, you leave, and I give you digital files. We meet before your session so I can get to know you. We customize it together. We plan it together. We do the session. Afterwards, you come back and you see your photos, and I help you pick them out. I really try to create a whole experience.
That's so beautiful. I love that you're doing that. Can you tell me about the resistance around weddings and why you have not stopped taking them on when your heart is not there anymore?
I think it's a fairly recent revelation for me. I really did used to love doing them, but in the current climate, and the couples I work with are great. It's not like I've worked with a bunch of bridezillas. The couples are wonderful, but I just feel like, I feel like I'm not making as much of an impact there as I'd like. So when someone hires me for senior photos, it's all about the photography and the experience I give them. When someone hires me for a wedding, I'm kind of an afterthought. It's not about the photography. It's about literally having someone there to click a button and capture the day. But the focus is not on photography.
Correct. Right.
So,
it's one of the many vendors. Yes.
Right. So I feel like I get very little time with them. It's not as creative a genre as I would like. For my bride and groom portraits, which can be the most creative, most brides will give me 15 minutes, which I can get a lot in 15 minutes, but I'd like an hour. So I feel like
I'm making a face because I was a 30-year wedding planner. I can't imagine allotting 15 minutes to the photographer.
And I feel like the wedding industry has changed. I don't know how long you've been out of it, but I feel like now, especially since COVID, people are doing much smaller weddings, which again is fine. I love intimate personal weddings, but people are calling and wanting me for an hour just to do family formals. And I'm getting very few requests for like the whole day. And if I do get those requests, they want it for very cheap because again, they're thinking about it like, I want someone to click a button and capture the day. They're not thinking about it like, I want these beautiful portraits of me and my fiance for my wall. It's just changed. And I guess it's just changing in the way it's just not lighting me up anymore because it takes a lot of time. It takes my weekends. It takes a full day. And then the editing is like 100 hours of editing. And I feel like to have people not appreciate it as much when I know that I can make more of an impact with my teens, I guess it's just kind of where I want to focus more of my energy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. I just wanted you to say it.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy because actually, think about this, Stace, that feeling, and the feeling is not wrong. The feeling is leading you where you're supposed to be, but acknowledging that feeling and staying anyway is not in service to your bride.
Right.
It's just not. So it is a double blessing for you to remove weddings from your website and finish the contracts that you have and just not offer it anymore. And that is going to open you up. In addition to your calendar, it's going to open you up energetically to let more in of what you actually desire because we can say, oh, we want this, we want this, we want this. And if there's no space to receive it, it's not coming. So I'm learning in this book that I'm reading, it's talking about the law of use and how if you are asking for an abundance in some other area, but you have closets full of clothes you don't wear, full of shoes you don't wear, full of craft supplies you don't use, full of decorations you haven't, like I actually have a labeled, because I have a whole system for my Christmas decor, right? And I have this labeling system on note cards. So the box is called C1. And if something different goes into C1, then I took out, I just create a new card. So I don't cross anything out on the box. I make a new card. So, but I have C7 is the box I don't even take down from the attic anymore because it's all the stuff I don't want to use. So this concept of the law of use is if you're hoarding something that you don't even want, it's an energy leak from asking for the things that we want. And we can do that with physical items. We can do that with ideas. We can do that with, my journal is full of, God, I desire more support in my business. I desire a team to do some of the things that I am not getting to, that are just moving from one to-do list one day to the next. And then I find myself in conversations, even if I'm at Tractor Supply, I'm buying chicken feed. They're 50-pound bags. I took it from the display onto the cart. I wheel my cart to the register. They ask, can I put this in your car for you? And I say, no, it's fine. I mean, unless you're going to come home and, so I then put it in the car, then I take it out of the car, then I take it to the chicken coop. And so even I'm thinking it's not helpful because you're not doing the whole task. But what it's doing, it is getting me in the habit of accepting help and accepting support. So my journal is full of saying, I would like some help, please. And then people are offering me help. And I say, oh, no, thank you. I got it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really good just to have these awarenesses and have these conversations. And I'm thrilled for you to DM me later today when you say, I took weddings off my website, because we trust in a benevolent, abundant universe to supply all of our needs.
Right.
So weddings are not your source. God is your source. And for this other woman that I referenced earlier, that job is not her source. God is her source. So anytime we make somebody or something else source, it's not going to work out.
Right. Yeah. And that was the first time just now in our conversation that I've ever voiced out loud, I want to be done with weddings. Yeah. Because I'm afraid to tell anyone that, because in the back of my head, I'm like, well, what if someone knows that and then no one's going to book me? But that's the whole point. Like,
exactly. You don't want them to book you.
Yeah. I have so many things that I want to do with my teens and then adding on tweens that I'm putting off because I'm taking weddings. So, I'm super excited to just keep going with all of my ideas and plans for my senior clients. And like I said, then adding in like the tweens, the younger kids.
Right. And honestly, worst case scenario, a month from now, 5 months from now, you say, oh gosh, that was a bad choice. You can add it back.
True.
But it's not going to happen. But if you need to tell yourself that, even this woman, I told her, it's like, you got to quit this job tomorrow. Like, it is killing you. What are you even doing? Worst case scenario, you can go back and work for her. Like, but that's not going to happen. So when sometimes we can ask ourselves these questions, and I'll ask you these questions with the weddings. Like, what is the worst thing that can happen if you stop taking weddings?
Yeah.
What do you think is the worst thing that can happen?
I guess the worst thing is that I'm not going to make the money that I want in my business.
Okay. And what's the worst thing that can happen if you don't make the money that you want in your business?
It will fail.
And what's the worst thing that will happen if you fail, if your business fails?
I guess just because I'm stubborn and I know me, I would start another business or, pivot, figure out a different way to do it.
Okay.
Because I've already told myself I am not going to work for someone else again. I'm not getting that corporate job. So,
right. So what that practice does is it shows us that even the worst case scenario is already not an option. Like you already said, you're not getting a job. This woman that I talked to yesterday, we went through all these, what's the worst thing? And she was like, oh, I'm going to be on the streets. We're going to lose our house. I was like, really? Obviously, that's not going to happen. Like
right.
that's not going to happen. So that we think it's this uninvestigated belief that is totally stopping us, but we're not investigating it either. Like we're just selling the house because there was a noise in the basement. It's like it could have been, the opening of a treasure chest, or it could have been, a bird that got stuck in there. Okay, well, let's let it out. Like it doesn't
right.
mean that, there's an axe murderer in there. It just, the belief needs to be investigated because the reality is always kinder than the story that we make up about it.
Right. Yeah. And I think for me, a lot of it came down to learning to trust that my feelings and my emotions were valid ones, and learning that the feelings that I have I'm the only one that needs to validate them. I don't need that external validation. I can trust that when I'm feeling something, that it's the right thing for me. And even if it doesn't look like the right thing for other people, that really doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
It absolutely doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And what's right for them and the decisions they need to make, it doesn't matter what you think about those. And when you think about that scenario, you're like, oh, but I'm really supportive of everybody. So it's exactly the way that it is back to you as well.
Right. Yeah. And I've learned too that if I'm twisting myself up in a pretzel, and this is a big lesson for me, if I'm twisting myself up in a pretzel to morph into the person that every other person that I interact with wants me to be, I'm not doing anybody a service because I'm not being my authentic self for them, which changes how they act towards me. And they're not learning the interaction, the authentic interaction between the two of us. Neither one of us is growing in the way that we should be growing because we have a mask on. Yeah.
Right. And it's exhausting.
Totally.
And, the older you get, you lose a little bit of flexibility in your body. So you just, being a pretzel is not in service.
Right.
No. Yeah. I'm so excited for you and all of this space in your schedule that's clearing up because you're no longer doing weddings.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited because I have a program that I offer. It's kind of like the extended version of the senior experience. So it's called my creator team, and it's a 16-month experience. It starts in like January of their junior year, goes all the way until they graduate.
Wow.
And it's for the teens who really want a different experience. So I teach them how to be content creators through partnering with local and online businesses. We do a bunch of fun extra shoots. So some of them are fully styled with wardrobe and hair and makeup. But then in addition to that, it's peer education or peer connection. So they get to interact with teens from not only their high school, but other schools. There's an educational and mentoring component to it. There is a giving back component to it. So I'd really like to have the time to expand on that program and really grow that side of it. And then eventually I would like to add a tween program that's kind of like a mini version of that. And that again really helps me then get to know these teens very well and really help them work with their confidence and, follow their goals and dreams, or even just help them to figure out what those are.
That's amazing. Can you explain a little bit more of what is the bridge between what you're teaching the kids and how the local business piece fits in?
Sure. So basically, I call it the creator team. So a lot of Gen Z these days, they want to be seen and heard online. Not necessarily influencers. The influencer thing was big a few years ago, but they want to have a space where they can be seen and heard authentically. So I teach them how to navigate social media in a safe and effective way in order to do that. And part of that is I partner with local boutiques or online boutiques, and we do some joint events together. So we'll do like a styled shoot where the girls will go shop the store, or the guys go shop the store, select their wardrobe for the shoot, and then we photograph them in those clothes. And then the boutique gets those images to use for their marketing and advertising, as well as the team members get those images. I get those images. And then we even take it a step farther, where we do a content creation day where we have like a short little education, 30-minute class on how to do this. And then my team creates content. So they're on the other side of the camera creating content for this boutique. So
I love that so much.
Thank you.
And when you want to bring your group on the road, please bring them here.
Awesome. That would be amazing.
I want someone following me around with a camera, recording all of this dreamy barn life. I can take pictures, I can go live, I can do all those things, but I also need to do the chores. So the pictures just sit in my camera roll. And if there's video, I don't know how to edit things. And I'm sure for some people, like, oh, that's easy, I can do that. That's nice. Can you come do that? Like, do that then, please.
Right.
Like, there are so many elements to my particular entrepreneurial journey, and so many others, that I love the way that these can interact. And I mean, talk about the double blessing. It works when you are completing relationships, but it also works when you are starting new ones. And what a beautiful service for this boutique. This person's like, I just want to sell clothes and I want people to come here, but I don't have time to tell people or to make it turn out as beautifully as I want. So being able to partner with you and these kids that are doing it from passion, you get the product you get with someone who's just starting, compared to what you get from someone who's been in the business for 10 years, you think, oh, well, the person that's been doing it for 10 years is going to be better. And in some ways that might be true, but chances are you're not going to get somebody who is more passionate about you being happy, who is completely going to over deliver and over give, because they are so excited for the opportunity to do what lights them up.
Yeah.
This is beautiful.
Yeah. It's a fresh perspective from their end, because they don't have the experience. They don't know, necessarily what angles are good. So they're trying different things. And, sometimes those things flop, but sometimes they're really cool and creative. And it also gets them involved in the local community, gets them meeting other local business owners, shows them, if they do want to start a business someday, what not only my business kind of looks like behind the scenes, but what another business looks like. Because, they're likely not all going to want to be photographers. They're going to have different things that they want to do. So the more I can expose them to that, the better. And one of the things on my goals list for several years now has been destination shoots with this team. So I love that. I will definitely, when we're ready, we'll be making a trip to Massachusetts.
Fantastic. Come
Yeah.
on over. Oh my gosh. I love this, Stace. And I love that you're getting some weekends free to do this.
Right.
It's time to complete the weddings.
It is. It is.
That's so great. And you can be excited about that. And you can give your all to the weddings you have on your books. And I mean, I did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have come out of retirement. I came out of retirement for a wedding last weekend, and I have one next August.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to be really selective, and it completely opened me up for other lovely, delightful opportunities that I didn't even know were available to me.
Right. And now when you
space.
Yeah. And now when you take a wedding, you're super excited about it because you're not bogged down with 50 of them. You know, you can pick and choose, like you said, and really deliver to those clients.
Right. And if something is occurring, for example, this wedding that I just did, something about the photographer, actually, it was not a vibe. Like, she just did not like me. That's the only thing I can think of. She did not like me. And I'm like, what? I'm Wendy Harrop. Everybody likes me. What are you talking about?
Never met before, which is weird. So how can she not like you?
Right. And I greeted her in the lobby and took her up to the suite where hair and makeup was, like, it was so bizarre. And she held on to I'm not going to like this woman for the entire event. And my former self, talk about a pretzel. You would have thought she was the bride for the attention I would have given her to make sure that we right this wrong and she likes me, damn it. And that I would have really spent a lot of energy navigating her comfort level. And instead, I'm just going to love and release you for I'm going to do what I need to do for my clients first. Right. Well, actually for me first, and then for my clients. And, everything went without a hitch, and I managed the other vendors, and I interacted with her professionally when that was necessary, but I did not go out of my way to change her mind. And that was a new practice for me. And it also, like, I like that person. I like the person who says, okay, well, you're not my client, so I don't need to worry about you. I'm gonna stay in my own lane and own my own experience and provide a fabulous service for the people that I'm here to do that for, and be super grateful that I'm not in this industry anymore, because that's not how I want to spend a Saturday.
Well, it sounds like, first of all, it sounds like she maybe shouldn't be in the industry anymore, because I feel like that's more an issue with her.
It was 100% an issue with her.
Yeah.
Have you met me?
Well, and I am like, I want everyone to like me too, like I do. And I still struggle with that. Like, I still have, my first instinct is always, like you said, bend over backwards. I'm going to make this person like me. And I have to remember that, first of all, it doesn't really matter. And it's about her, not you. And you just do you. And you don't have an obligation to make them like you.
Right.
Yeah.
My old self, like, ooh, someone doesn't like me, that just means I try harder.
Right. And that's how I am. In certain instances, I still am. I'm working on that. That's a work in progress for me, but I'm at least recognizing it now and then trying to dial it back a little bit.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's in service for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this. I loved this conversation. I loved hearing what you're up to and this new program, or this program that you're able to give more time to so that it expands. I'm really excited to watch that grow.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. I've super enjoyed talking with you, Wendy. It's really been great.
Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.